What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Alolan DataDex with me, TheOneIntegral. In our last episode we covered one of the Ultra Beasts, Kartana, and I gave you a choice between two Pokemon for this episode. They were Lycanroc Midday and there was Palisand. Lycanroc just inched out, so we'll be covering that today, but of course Palisand will eventually come up in the future, so stay tuned for that. But the vote for next episode is a rematch sort of thing. We have two losers from their previous bouts. We have Wishy-Washy and we have Arachnid, the pure water or the water bug type. So which one would you like to see covered next episode? Let me know by commenting either Wishy-Washy or Arachnid down below in the comments section. But for now, let's jump in and have a look at Lycanroc's Midday form. Lycanroc is number 745 in the National Pokédex and is the wolf Pokemon as well as being a pure rock type. Its Midday form stands at 2 foot 7 inches or 0.8 meters tall and weighs 55.1 pounds or 25 kilograms. Breeding wise is in the field egg group and the male-female split is simply 50-50. Evolution then, Rockruff is the pre-evolution of Lycanroc of course and will evolve into Lycanroc Midday at level 25 in Pokemon Sun only. If it's in Pokemon Moon you get the Midnight form. So the stats for Lycanroc Midday. They're actually slightly better than Lycanroc Midnight. I did a previous episode on that, and it basically the way it works is Lycanroc Midday's has more speed, whereas Midnight takes that away and puts it across the defenses. So this is a more glass cannon Pokemon, but faster. You can see attack at 115 and speed at 112. High stats, so of course you'll be fast and you'll be dealing a decent amount of damage. Further down we have health points at 75, the defenses at 65, and then special attack at 55. So as I mentioned, not very defensive. It's a very frail Pokemon, so you're looking to be fast and doing damage quickly. Ability wise, there are 3 available for Lycanroc Midday. The first is Keen Eye, which prevents its accuracy being dropped. Decent, but generally accuracy isn't a huge thing in metagames, so it's not the best ability. Which is arguably the next one, Sand Rush, which boosts the Pokemon's speed in a sandstorm. So obviously your already decent speed will get doubled if you're in a sandstorm and have Sand Rush, which is pretty good I'd say. So really, if possible, you want to be using this with a sandstorm team. It has a hidden ability there which is Steadfast, which boosts its speed each time it flinches. So another speed based ability. It's okay, but generally you don't want to be taking, you won't be taking enough hits to be flinching that often, and flinching isn't really that common a thing to see nowadays. So what does the typing say? Well, it's pure rock of course, so there's nothing amazingly special. 4 resistances in normal, fire, flying and poison, 5 weaknesses in grass, water, fighting, ground and steel, and the rest in neutral of course. And look, I'm talking about sort of stab and stuff, really it's not a great type for that because I feel myself at least, rock type moves are fairly lacking in power, or they're very powerful but you have lower accuracy like Stone Edge for example, so I feel like rock is a fairly weak type on its own, but it's nothing terribly bad. So what moves could you use with your Midday Lycanroc? Well, there are a few here, but it's not really a huge move pool, so it's nothing too sort of specialised. First move is learned upon evolution from Rockruff to Lycanroc Midday, and that is Accelerock, which is a new move for Generation 7, and it's learned only by Lycanroc, I do believe. Accelerock is a priority rock move basically, so 40 base damage, but it's priority, so it sort of helps out your your already good base speed to be even better, and you can get these priority moves off, which is pretty good unless of course Psychic Terrain's up or Dazzling's up or whatever. So it's a decent move to think about using there. One level up move though is Crunch at level 40. This is a pretty decent damage dark type move, of course gives you decent coverage and can possibly lower the defense stat as well, which of course will help out if you can get Crunch in, lower the defense and then Accelerock in to take advantage of that basically. Then we have 2 TMs, TM71 Stone Edge, as I mentioned just now, is a very powerful rock type move but only has 80% accuracy, hence why I feel like rock type is sort of lacking in that offensive capability I suppose. But we have one of the move which is Sword Stance at TM75. Of course if you can get Sword Stance off, your high speed and access to Accelerock as a priority move that allows you to do lots of damage and be pretty fast and allow you to actually get the hits in. 3 egg moves to follow up. The first of these is Fire Fang, which is obviously just coverage move. It's not a hugely amazing move though, but it's all it really gets. Sucker Punch is followed up here, which is an alternative to Crunch if you want even more priority. Slightly less damage, and will only work if they're going to attack you, but of course gives you priority if you really need it. And then the final move is Thunder Fang, obviously an equivalent to Fire Fang, if again you want that coverage to handle water types for example. So those are the moves you could think about using on Lycanroc. We're only going to be looking at one set because I feel like this is really the only way to use Lycanroc. As I mentioned, it's a grass cannon, so obviously it needs to be fast and needs to do lots of damage, which means all that attacking set is really the only way you can go. You're not going to get very far with a defensive set. I'm really going for a choice set. It could work as an alternative to this set, but really this set encompasses it all. So move-wise, we're going to have Swords Dance, Alolan, Stone Edge, and then the last choice is really just up to you. It's a coverage choice. It's Fire Fang, Thunder Fang, Crunch, or Sucker Punch. That round. Ability is Sound Rush here because ideally you don't want to be using it in a sandstorm. You don't necessarily have to, but it will very much help you because of course Swords Dance, and then you'll be able to have double speed and be able to make use of that Swords Dance basically. Nature is Jolly or Adamant. It really depends sort of what you're going for, and then the held item, it could be a Life Orb or a Stone Plate. It depends whether you want a bit more damage from the Life Orb, but the fact that you are, a bit more damage from, Fire Fang or your coverage move, or whether you don't want to be losing those health points, so you go for the Stone Plate. EVs will have maximum attack and speed, of course, and the last few in special defense, just because why not? Might as well go to health points, defense, special defense, doesn't matter too much. So the idea here is you hopefully switch in with a sandstorm. You can maybe force a switch in that case if, say they have a Fire Flying type out. It says Talonflame, of course you have, Alolan maybe. So obviously Sandstorm isn't going to keep Talonflame at full health points, so Gale Wings will activate now, which means Alolan will basically just want to kill it. So they will have to switch out if they want to keep the Talonflame alive, which means you can get a Swords Dance off. Then you've got +2 attack, you've got double speed thanks to the Sandstorm being active still, and you're pretty fast anyway, so then you can start doing some decent damage with your Stone Edge or Alolan or with whatever your last choice here. So that's really how you want to use that set there. In terms of your coverage choice of Fire Fang, Thunder Fang, Crunch or Sucker Punch, Fire Fang will of course give you coverage against Steel, which otherwise will completely wall you. Grass, if you are threatened by any grass types for example. Thunder Fang conversely will be good against water types. Not necessarily flying types because you have rock type moves for that, and then Crunch and Sucker Punch are there if you want Crunch in the instance you want some coverage for ghost types and psychic types, and then Sucker Punch also similarly for that, but also if you want even more priority. So if you're going for an adamant nature, you could lean more towards using Sucker Punch over Crunch because you won't have as much speed, but if you're using Jolly you might as well go for Crunch because you're already pretty fast. So yeah, that's really sort of the set. You just want to get that Swords Dance off and then start doing damage. There's not much more to it than that. Lycanroc, Midday, as well as Midnight really. They're both fairly weak Pokemon. Midnight has possibly a bit more use. Well, they both have really reasonable use. Midday has more use thanks to its higher speed. Midnight has more different ways to use it, I suppose, because you can have a defensive set, we can go for all that attacking. So that's really Lycanroc Midday. So that's where the video is going to end here for today, but do not forget to vote for the next episode's Pokemon, either Wishy-Washy or Araquanid, so let me know down below by commenting either of those, and we'll be covering a Water-type Pokemon next episode. But for now, let's go. I don't know, but for now this is going to be it for me for today, so I shall be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.